If we wouldn't like Cuba, we would not like, for some reason, I think we would have a policy of some kind of a deliberate support of these countries. Because in Cuba, we have this so-called embargo against Cuba. Not many people realize, however, that we're providing them economic food aid of about $3 billion per year. So from one hand, we are saying, well, they have bad human rights record and stuff like that. From another hand, we are supplying them with food to keep them afloat. In Cuba, if you go to a restaurant, you eat all the time, they call them bush legs. That would be the a lot of chicken coming from the United States. Served only to foreigners, $4. Cuban people do not eat that. I have a friend in the Department of State. When I worked with the federal government, was working a lot with the Department of State. And I asked her, what does this mean? Why would we support Cuba? And North Korea the same way. We are providing North Korea with about 500,000 tons of grain, of wheat and corn coming from the United States. Well, the idea is that if we will not support, if we will not provide them, well, first thing, people will die. There would be hunger, whatnot. Another issue is that then we would lose our leverage over them. So what does it mean, leverage? That means if I'm giving you $500 a day, for example, then I'm getting a leverage over you. Because at the point I was saying, next day I will give you only 400 if you would not do that. Or I wouldn't give you anything. So that's I think, a very perverted ideas, because they are perpetuating the regimes which would be gone, which would be thrown out by their own people. Because hunger usually, I think it was a German economist, Konrad Engel. He used to say he had the rule of 9 meals. That if you miss your 9th meal, then you throw out bombs. If you don't have enough to eat, if you have the 9th meal, yes, rule by Konrad Engel. So this is how they're surviving, I think, how they're surviving. Now they have a big friend as Mr. Chavez from Venezuela, who is pumping a lot of oil, pumping a lot of funds and a lot of everything over there. But Cubans in Cuba, one gentleman, he said, we are still luckier than you are in Russia. And I said, why? He said, Mr. Putin in Russia, he is only 54, and he is a sportsman, and he is very fit, and he doesn't drink or smoke. And in Cuba, one is 72, and another is 84, yes. One is 82, another 84. So he said, we optimists, we count days. And in Russia, you should count for a while, yes. So that's really the case.
Excuse me, Doctor. Before we take this next question, would you please introduce your family?
Oh, okay. Yes, this is my wife, Rita. And Stanley and Laura.
What is the question?
Never had any ideas of having children in the Soviet Union. Came to the United States, exploded with children. So probably something in the water.
Also, before we take this next question, we wanted to apologize for the temperature in the room. But we wanted you to understand what it's going to feel like under socialism.
That's and can you imagine, it's a public school, yes.
Actually, we were told this was a smart room, that it would cool itself when the bodies got in here, and it obviously is not that smart. What was the question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm concerned about what the universities are putting in the head of most of the students going there. How responsive do you find your students to your warnings about socialism? Is it getting through? Is there hope?
Yes, there is definitely hope. And many of my students, they have chosen freedom in their careers, and they are extremely successful in this field. One of my former students, very good in economics, excellent student. Here right now is the budget director for Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. Then I had numerous students, maybe a dozen or more, whom I would recommend to my Congressman Paul Ryan, and they would intern with him. Another student of mine, he is on majority staff of the Joint Economic Committee of United States Congress, and he is so free market that he would accuse Ron Paul of being a socialist. So that's some of them are doing very well. So, however, I think that we should not shortchange any student. So, I mean, in my classes, student with any views is welcome, and we will try to work on him definitely. But from another hand, I think that the true academic freedom should be diversity of thought, not just diversity of skin pigmentation, but diversity of thought. This is the most important, and definitely students are they have flaming hearts, kind of, in a sense. I think Hayek also said that if you are 20 and you are not a socialist, you don't have a heart. But if you are 30 and you are still a socialist, you don't have brains. And I think that was this is very important for us to keep in mind. But yes, students are really great. Carthage, wonderful students. I was on a leave of absence last semester, taught at the University of Dallas, another wonderful school, and also a lot of students are way more conservative than their faculty. It's because sometimes with faculty it is difficult. It is pretty, sometimes pretty, I think most people think, they invite me to speak at the University of Iowa. They thought I am a communist preacher, I think, from Moscow. I worked with Gorbachev, I thought I would like to promote that. Yes, but there's another great piece by Hayek, if you would have time to read it. It's called Why Intellectuals Love Socialism. And intellectuals, journalists, or teachers, or university professors, in many cases they love socialism because it provides them with a claim to power. Claim they know more. And they're surprised and they're outraged by the fact that the guy who is making toilet paper is making more money than them, who know everything about ancient Greece and ancient Rome and everything else, and Karl Marx. And so they're outraged by that. And socialism is giving them this claim, because the idea of socialism is not the rule of masses, it's the rule of the vanguard of the masses. Masses are gray. Gray masses should be led to the glorious future, by the people with vision and knowledge and science in their hands. So that's I think, is one of the reasons. It's also, most of them are tenured hippies of 1960s. So many of my colleagues are. Hopefully they will retire pretty soon. And that could be. Okay.
Just a comment and a question I'd like you to comment on. We've had what I might call creeping socialism in this country for 50 years, at least, or longer. The liberal media, the left-wingers, the Democrat Party have been very, very successful in moving it forward very slowly at a glacial pace, and hardly anybody objected. Every little expansion of government, every little additional regulation and tax, everybody said, well, that's okay as long as it was small. And that's what got us to where we were when Obama was elected. But now, Obama has dramatically overreached the last couple of years as far as socialism, and it's woken everybody up. I think we, in a perverse way, need to thank Obama for what has happened here, because here we are, and we've got a lot of conservatives, Republicans, independents, and even some Democrats waking up to this disaster that confronts us, that you're telling us about today. So just, if you had any comment on that?
Yes, I think that today is the most important for us, to keep kind of the flame up. This is the most important, because I think Reagan once said the conservatives usually would go into slumber after each elections. and kind of feel that. And in many cases that happened here in Wisconsin. I remember that after November the 2nd, I mean, it was difficult even to organize free market discussions in Milwaukee or anywhere else, because people were not interested. They thought we did it. We did it. However, you can see that we didn't do that. Look at all these recalls. Look at how much money are coming to Wisconsin from external sources. How much AFL-CIO is pumping here. How much Nancy Pelosi is organizing fundraisers to remove our heroic senators from their jobs. This I think is very, very important for us to keep in mind, that freedom is not free in the sense that we should fight for it. From another hand, it is very dangerous. I mean, you are absolutely right about Mr. Obama and his policies, is that at a certain critical point, when everybody would be on the dole, or majority would be on the dole, when the tax eaters would outpace tax payers, then that can be an end of freedom. Because if people can be bought with their bus tickets or something else, or something more serious than that, then many people don't realize that it is a dead end, and this would be very bad for them as well.
I like your insights in a big picture kind of way, in a world overview kind of way. I get the impression over the last few years, as I've listened to a lot of people on the kind of conservative libertarian right, that we're not really sure what we're up against. And I guess by that I mean, is the left simply a bunch of busybody do-gooders who feel a certain sense of noblesse oblige and want to look out for us for our own good? Or is it really a bunch of corrupt SOBs who want to rule us to steal all our money? Or is it, when you look at a Stalin or a Pol Pot, is it really made up of a bunch of psychopaths who view the carrying capacity of the earth as maybe 1 million people and ultimately want to kill us all? So are they do-gooders? Are they thieves? Are they psychopaths? Where do you see
I think that all of the above and many more. I would say it's also logic of socialism. Logical. For example, first Soviet government was the most educated government in the world. Lenin could speak 7 languages. Trotsky would write poetry in French. Bukharin was playing piano better than Condoleezza Rice or whomever else. But the logic of socialism turned them into mass murderers. It's not that they were born mass murderers, but they realized. And how they realized? I was kind of blessed. My college is providing me with a small grants to study something called Volkogonov archive in the Library of Congress. It was a Soviet general, Dmitry Volkogonov. He was commander of the Soviet Institute for Military History and member of the Central Committee of the party. He was kind of a propaganda hero, like Michael Moore, but in a uniform in the Soviet Union. And when I would see him on TV, I would switch him off right away. And I didn't know at that time. I thought he's just a communist stooge with no brains. But then it turned out that in 1980, he bought the first Xerox machine in the Soviet Union for his institute. And he was making highly illegal copies of everything going through his desk. And he collected 46 boxes of these illegal copies. And that were memos, handwritten memos by Lenin to Stalin, to Dzerzhinsky, to other crooks in the Soviet government. And it was interesting for me to see their transition from being at first do-gooders and intellectuals, into serial mass killers. How would they? Because socialism does not have any incentives. See what I mean? If you all be paid the same, no matter how much, but all paid the same, whether you show up or don't, whether you work hard or not, then you would, at a certain point, you would not work. You would not work. So how to make you work? And Lenin in 1922, he wrote to Dzerzhinsky, I'm telling people what to do, they don't listen. What, dear Felix, he was the first founder of KGB, dear Felix, what will take a couple of them and shoot them publicly? And they did, and people began to listen. And they began to shoot people in thousands, in millions, and everybody began to listen. Everybody began to tremble. And Lenin, it's amazing for me sometimes, I'm finding this unheard of. I mean, it's amazing that I'm the only one working on this. It can be 10,000 PhDs made on these materials, because later he became a national security advisor to Yeltsin. And he wanted to move all his treasure to the United States. And US ambassador approached him in Moscow saying that CIA can help you to move it. He said, no CIA, Library of Congress. If CIA guys want to read that, they can get a reader's card and do it right there. Because he was afraid that CIA would put it under the lead again, and nobody would have this. And it's amazing. For example, there was a party secretary from south of Russia writing to Lenin, dear Comrade Lenin, you sent us a memo that we should fight religion. How? But you didn't explain how to fight religion. And Lenin, on this very letter, he writes, dear Comrade imbecile, kill religious people, that's how. Lenin. And then postscript, and kill them the way that people will tremble 150 miles around. And that's exactly what Lenin, I mean, definitely when he was a young person, he probably also, I don't know, was not a monster, was not a mass murderer. No, it's the people who outpaced every Jeff Dahmer in the world by these millions. Stalin used to say, death of one person is a tragedy. Death of a million is statistic, nothing else.
They're just doing questioning.
And so this is exactly, I think, what... and many people, amazingly now, many people in the United States still like Stalin. Still like Stalin. There's, amazingly enough, in Brandenburg, Virginia, they put a bust of Stalin in the memorial for the Second World War. And only because so many people revolted against that. And I was sending letters to all the small Virginian town newspapers and whatnot. So they removed it, however they promised that maybe they will install it when the public kind of would calm down a little bit. So this is very, very sad. And this definitely, socialists are like that. All of them above. I mean, it's not that Mr. Obama, I think, he is extremely bright and charming person. But then with the ideas he had, they would be driven into something else. It's just the logic of that. It doesn't work. People don't listen. That's how socialism, it can only be glued by fear. Why Soviet Union survived for 84 years? Because of fear. It was an overwhelming fear. Why it collapsed? Because my boss, Mr. Gorbachev, he removed fear out of the system, which was glued only by fear. Because he was all the time talking about social human face. Nobody could understand, what is that? And at that time, there was a pretty nice joke of the day, was that the CIA didn't know what perestroika is, and so they sent their best agent to Moscow to find out what's happening. And so the agent is going to store with his little notebook, taking notes, goes to the bakery, he writes no bread, he goes to the butcher shop, no meat, goes to the shoe store, no shoes. And there is a KGB person, KGB guy, he looks over his shoulder and he said, 10 years ago you would be shot for doing that. He writes there, no bullets. And that's exactly what happened. When people realized they ran out of bullets, then the whole thing collapsed. The same thing, what happened in Iraq, and other countries like that, which are glued only by fear. When fear is removed, some people think it's chaos because it implodes and whatever, and there's an old, ancient grievances would resurface again. But it's inevitable if people were kept in this. And that was regime of the random killings. They were just killing people randomly, so nobody could kill themselves in safety.